weren't live a couple of minutes ago because we were talking about some pretty funny stuff.
We were indeed. Hey, what did you do last time? Because I was away. I was on the Camino. I was walking the Camino trail in Spain.
I know. And, I remember talking to you about that and you sharing some gold nuggets and wisdom from that. But you know what? Last week, we talked about, you actually and I talked about it in one of our leadership lounges where we talked about in the year 2030 that millennials would be the majority of our workforce.
They're going to run the planet.
They're going to run the planet, I know. And I had Mel Robinson, who is a friend and colleague of mine, and we've done some great collabs together. And she's actually done a whole lot of research on that. So she just had a whole lot of gold that she could share with the audience around what leaders really need to think about when it comes to leading millennials, because it's different. It's different from the boomers. It's different from the Gen Xers. It's different way of leading, and leaders need to be prepared. So that's what we talked about last week.
Yeah, what a topic. What a topic. You could go into that. That is actually stamped urgent. We're talking about uncertainty. Right.
Yes.
Millennial apathy. It used to be millennial apathy, but millennials are going to run the planet in 2030, 7 years to go, counting down.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because you know that I run a lot of leadership programs, and I'm often saying when I'm working through different frameworks and how to, lead underperformance, how to lead change, how to provide feedback, because it's very different. We need to be more agile in the way. We can't just have this one size fits all.
And unfortunately, there are laws that even prevent you from taking that approach now.
Well, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I had a really interesting situation while I was away where I was in a cafe in the middle of Spain, right? In the middle of Spain. And it was really lovely. The husband and wife couple that ran this cafe in the middle of nowhere, right? He was dressed as a woman and she was dressed as a man.
Yeah, right.
Right. And what was really fascinating was hearing people go, "Oh, that can't be right. That's blah 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 blah." So but the point is that is the workplace. That's how it is. That's how people want to come to work. That's how they want to do life now, right?
Yes.
That's why I say boomers like me it was all the boomers who were having that reaction, by the way.
Yeah. Well, do you know what I was thinking when I was thinking about the topics to talk about today? Because I've just got so many things I could talk about when it comes to leadership. But one of the topics I was going to bring, and maybe we leave it for another one, was about diversity and inclusion. So what I'm seeing is a lot of diversity, but not inclusion. So many organizations are going, we're diverse. Look at who's on our board. Look at our leadership team. Look at this, look at that. But just because we've got diversity doesn't mean we have inclusion. So I'm going to leave that as a thought for everyone to think about. And we can touch on that because I could go down a rabbit hole.
And that will create a lot of uncertainty.
It absolutely will. So what are we going to talk about today? And actually, let's just set the scene. Why are we doing this? We were a couple of months back, actually it's probably been close to 5 months since I've been in the new office. I said, I actually want to do just share some insights that I deal with leaders on every single day that I think would help other leaders. Leadership can be quite a silo environment. And I wanted to be able to share some of the learnings and some of the areas that I teach leaders and develop and coach leaders. And you went, I want to do that with you. And I went, I would love you to do that with me. So these really the whole purpose of it. And for those that don't know Andrew Priestley is an amazing entrepreneur, background in organizational psychology. We actually did our psych degrees together. We've known each other for over 20 years. A coach and a mentor to me for as long as I can remember, and have been running successful businesses for 30 years now?
Easily. And we coach leaders.
We coach leaders, and not just any leaders that are in either corporates, SMEs, medium-sized enterprises, leaders that actually want to make a difference to not only themselves, but also to those around them, their people. And that's why we're doing it. So these sessions are really an opportunity for us to just share one topic and just talk about it, share some ideas around where we feel is relevant for the audience as well. And today, what I thought I would do, because I think it's going to be something that leaders really need to consider for next year, for 2024, is leading through change and uncertainty. At the moment, our world is just facing a number of different challenges. We've got economic instability, we've got labour force instability, we've got political upheaval, we've got unrest throughout the world, and senior leaders need to be able to lead their teams through these challenges with confidence and resilience. But they also, at this time, and what I find around leading through uncertainty, is that they need to be able to communicate really clearly their vision for the future. They need to be able to empower their teams to make decisions, feel confident, be able to grow and develop that resilience. So what do you think about that topic?
Well, I like it, and I'm going back to this is Australians will know this. If you're not watching from Australia, okay. In the year 2000, we had in Australia had the Olympics. They hosted the Olympics, and the national airline carrier for the Australian Olympics was a company called ANZET.
Yeah,
and there was a couple of people who actually big players, well-known players, who bought into ANZET in a big way, and they totally fumbled the ball. And I was actually coaching a guy who was the general manager of a regional airport, Australia's largest regional airport in Australia. Mm-hmm. And this particular day, he came into work, and in the morning, he rang me really early, about 7 a.m. And he said, "Oh, ANZET's just collapsed." Right. And what that meant was, for his airport, they lost 80% of their traffic in one day. So that's all the the airports run on the number of people on the plane, the number of planes that land, they charge per head for everything. 80% of their market disappeared, right? So everybody who was watching the news, who worked at that airport, knew what was coming next. They knew what was happening, right? The issue was, he was saying, "How can I spin this?" And I said, "You can't spin it." Right? They're very, very uncertain. So when we talk about things happening in the world, it can be a simple thing like they said, "Oh, ANZET went into provisional liquidation overnight." Firstly, for anyone in leadership, there's no such thing as all of a sudden in business. Okay, the guys who work at ANZET didn't go to bed on Wednesday night and then on Thursday morning at 7 o'clock they said, "Oh, we've gone into liquidation." Yeah, it's all over, right? Usually there's something like there's anything up to a 2-year lead time before you make that decision, right?
Yeah.
The big clue is that when they moved 2 of their flight simulators offshore from off Australia, one moved to Singapore and one to Auckland, right? Some 8 months prior.
Probably a bit of an easy sign, isn't it?
There's a bit of a clue there, right? But see, the point is, though, the point we're talking about is what happens. So we talk about uncertainty. What I found with that was, do you know what happened? Do you get the facts?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you might have a vision, but something's happened which is in direct. I've got a vision for an airline. The airline doesn't exist. It just fell over. Now what? Yeah. But get the facts. That's a starting point. Yeah.
I think the point you're making, if we put an umbrella over it, is communication, isn't it? It's transparency, isn't it, around communication? And I know that in times of uncertainty, and again, I've worked with lots of organizations where we're going through transformational change, restructures, mergers, acquisitions, and communication has to be that foundation. Okay. And it's not, and what I want to say to everyone listening, it's not just monologue. It's not just the leaders and the people at the front just drilling down the same pieces of communication time and time again. It's that ability to have that dialogue, okay? Hearing the concerns, hearing the worry, hearing the thoughts that are going through their people's heads. Because if they don't, and I see it when they don't, it's just that monologue, People make up stories. They make up stories, and then that filters through the rest of the team or the people. And then all of a sudden we've got this greater uncertainty because people now have started to create a story in their head. You know, my favorite communication model that I love is the 5 W's and H model, and I teach it all the time. Okay. It was created by a journalist, and I'm going to say, I don't know, I'm going to say well over 10 years ago, maybe longer than that. I should look it up. And it's the 5 W's and H. And what they say is that any journalist or news reporter or storyteller will tell you that you need to start with these first in order to create a story. And I say the same happens in business. So they are, what is the message? Why? When? Who? How? And where? Okay, it's a beautiful framework for organizations to really be able to clearly communicate during those times of uncertainty, and then making sure they've got that dialogue happening.
I agree with you there, and I'd also go one step back from that is the intention. So notice in my story, the guy said, how do I spin it?
Yeah.
Right. And that's leading right into communication thing, because, you know, what's transparent about spinning, right? Like I said, you can't spin it. That's the fact. Your airline's fallen over. You can't, there's no way you
lose trust. But you lose trust if you spin it, don't you?
Oh, and well, people see it for what it is. They may not call you on it, but they see it for what it is. I'm discovering, you know, like that in that particular case, I said, no, look, it sounds like bad news, and it is bad news.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you go and see these people, don't try and spin it, right? Just go out and say, listen, today it's going to sound like bad news, and today it is bad news, right?
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, people may not like what they're going to hear. But when we checked with people afterwards, they all said, you know, I like the way, I'll call him Bill. I like the way Bill did it. He didn't come out and try and whitewash it. You'll all keep your jobs. But everyone on that crew, and he got them all together, knew that at least 60% of those guys weren't going to have a job that afternoon. They knew that. Right. But he said what we liked, I didn't like what he was going to say, and we knew what was going to come anyway, because, you know, when your major national carrier falls over, there's got to be a lot of fallout from that.
Yeah, for sure.
And we knew it was only going to be the emergency crews that were going to be essential people going to stay, and the rest were going to be laid off that particular day. But he didn't spin it. That's what they like, that transparency which you're talking about. Yeah. And it got us together early, and he conveyed that message to us. Yeah. So I think I'm agreeing with you that the communication is the key, the transparency thing, but it's got to be that the leader understands the current situation so they can create a vision, right? There's no point coming out with, oh, this has happened when that hasn't happened, or it's not accurate, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So again, I love models. Okay. So I'm going to explain another one that I use around uncertainty. And I created this model because during COVID, many leaders were leading through uncertainty, weren't they? Okay. When do we go back to the office? What's going to happen? Do we shut our business? Do we open our business? Do people work from home? Do some people work? There was just so much uncertainty. And we're seeing a little bit of that now around interest rate rises, labor shortages, people worried about their own financial situations. Can they afford that? Okay. So the model that I created was a model that is really simple, and I based it on our background in psychology and really thinking about what do people want to know when they're uncertain? What do people want to hear? Okay, the very first step is people want to be understood. Okay, so for any leaders that are leading through uncertainty at the moment, people want to feel that you understand what they're going through. Okay, so how are you showing that you understand them? Okay. The second part to the model is
that can't be dumbed down.
No.
That's why they need a coach a lot of times, because a lot of listeners don't listen, and they don't listen to understand. They listen to whether I agree or disagree with what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's just I understand what you're feeling. I understand what you're going through. I understand what is going on for you. I get it. I understand it. People want to be understood. Okay. That's
What's
the reality. The second one is educate. Okay.
Yeah.
Now educate is all around what are we doing? If there is a closure, if there is a change, if it is a new system, whatever it might be, whatever the change is, if you're leading change to uncertainty, educate them on the why and the what. Why are we doing this? What is it going to help us with? How is this going to help us? All of that, reinforce that there's a reason that we're doing this. Okay. Yeah. And then my final part is reassure. Okay. Yeah. Again, people don't know how much you know until they know how much you care. Is that right? Is that how I said that right? You know what I mean?
I get told that all the
time. People don't know. I don't know. I forgot. RG, you
know what? Here's the context for it, right? I don't know whether you did this or not, but when I did my psych degree, I did an internship in a rehab clinic, right? That was one of the things that I did because I did dysfunction. My major was in dysfunction, so I ended up going into this rehab clinic, right? And we were doing this. Talk to a drug addict, right? It's really, really interesting because they'll say stuff that's absolute nonsense to you. Right.
Yeah.
And your filter is, do I agree with what you're saying here? Well, clearly you're going to say, no, I don't agree at all. Right. But when you're dealing with someone who's under pressure, particularly with uncertainty, it's that premium it's not, do you agree with what I'm saying, but do you understand what I'm saying and why am I saying it? Exactly. So I don't necessarily have to agree with you but I do need to understand why you're saying that. We've got something in the chat that says people don't care how much you know. Or is that somebody just writing?
Yeah. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thank you. Yeah. You're right, Andrew, isn't it? So it's not about agreeing. It's not. Okay. If we're leading through change with uncertainty, sometimes we can't change it. That's the reality. The change is occurring.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So understand, educate, reassure that we're going to get through this, that we're going to come out the other side, that you will be okay. People want to know that it's going to be okay, that you're there as a leader, you're with them. Okay.
This was Google's research too, that their number one finding for effective teams was psychological safety. Do I matter? Do I belong? Am I safe? Right.
Yeah.
That understanding piece is really important. Do you care about me?
Yeah.
And millennials want that. They want to know that, particularly, right?
Yeah.
And when you fail on that, they vote with their feet.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And do you want me to share one more model?
I think you need to. Yeah.
So again, I've used lots of different change models over the years when it comes to change, but there's one change model that I absolutely love, and it's called the ADKAR model. ADKAR. Okay, so for everyone out there, I know RG will splash it across the chat bar or wherever it sits, but don't lead change without a model. Okay, because I can guarantee it, you will miss an element of it. And what we do know is when you miss a stage, we don't get the results that we want. Okay, or secondly, we don't get the maximum results that we want. Okay, so it's really important that people are using models out there. There's models, there's frameworks. I say it all the time. There's a model and a framework for everything leadership. Okay, I teach it in our leadership excellence program. But there's a tool.
And that gives you a structure. Gives you a structure to move forward.
Structure, absolutely. A bit like my structure that I use for strategic planning. Same. ADKAR model, ADKAR. It's a beautiful model. It allows leaders to be able to lead through it. And then leaders, when there's that uncertainty, remember what people need is empathy. They need that understanding. They need that reassurance. They need to know that you care. They need to know that I have this psychological safety. Or if we think about it from the Patrick Lencioni's model, trust. Trust that you're going to look after me. Trust that you've got my back. Trust that I can trust you as a leader.
What's the ADKAR model?
Oh, awareness.
Awareness,
okay.
Right?
Awareness. We must first have awareness of why we've got to change. Okay.
Yeah.
Second is desire. I've got to make the actual internal decision that I'm coming on the bus with you. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
K is for knowledge. Give me the knowledge. Give me the tools of how we're going to change. Okay.
Yeah.
Give me the knowledge. Okay. A is ability. Allow me the opportunity to practice this, try it, learn how to do it. Okay. And the R is reinforcement. Again, and Andrew, you might have seen this too. I've worked for lots of corporates throughout my life. That sounded like I was really old, didn't it? Throughout my career. What I mean is many organizations, they do the change, they give the people the training, they give people the tools, and they go, off you go, there you go, you got it all, and I'm gone. I'm on to the next project, or I'm on to the next, piece of work that we've got to do. And what they forget to do is reinforcement. I know companies that spend millions of dollars on implementing change, and then they move on to that next change before it's even reinforced. You want to say something? I can see it in your mind.
No, I'm sort of thinking this too, that somebody at the top, that decision to move on, that decision to not reinforce comes from the very top. So if we're talking about leaders, so when both of us are working with leaders, right, we're sort of calling people on their stuff. So, people say they'll tell a story and the story sounds really good, but I'm listening to that story through a different filter through, how are you being around this issue? That's the filter I'm often listening to. And so a leader will be going, oh, I did this, yeah, but how are you being around that issue? And so, we didn't do the reinforcement. Why not?
Yeah, well, you know why not? Okay.
No, tell me.
Well, this is what I see, right? I see leaders at the top going, we can't keep doing this. We just got to move on to the next. We've got things to do. We've got other goals to achieve. We've got to do all of this other stuff. But the people on the ground, the people that are actually making the change, and just as a reminder to everyone, companies don't change, people change. Okay? Companies don't change, people change. So unless we've got the people doing the change we need them to do, the change doesn't happen. So if the top people at the top are going, let's just move on to the next thing, and I see it time and time again. Reinforcement. What do I mean by reinforcement? Things like reinforcement are things like celebrate wins, share results, buddy up, share stories. Okay, show them where we were and where we are now. Do that little bit of a time map. I like to have a bit of a thermometer in some businesses that I lead change, so they can see some of the graduals. I want to reinforce that. I want to share it. I want to shout it to the rooftops. That's what reinforces it. It's positive reinforcement, Andrew. We learned this in psychology. How do we get people to do the same thing? Through positive reinforcement. If we're just going, you've got the tools, you've got the things that you need, just do your job. Might not.
Yeah. I mean, and also too, sometimes the solution to something may not be obvious, right? From your own perspective, right? If I go back to that airport guy, do you remember Virgin Blue entered the market?
Yeah.
2000. And one of the things that sounds really counterintuitive, you've just lost you've lost 80% of your market coming into your airport.
Yeah.
And the guy says, what do we do? What do we do? How do we adapt? How do we change? How do we do? I can set a vision, but there are no airlines. And I said, well, that's not entirely true. I said, who else lands at your airport? And he said, well, Qantas lands at our airport. I said, do you know someone at Qantas? Yeah, I'm doing. I said, why don't you send them a thank you letter? Thank you for landing at my airport.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So he sends them a letter off to Qantas. Qantas says, oh, would you like some more planes to land there? That's what they went back. He said, yeah, that would be nice.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. So as only in Australia, yeah, that'd be great, mate. Yeah. But that one thing. So sometimes it's like they double the number of planes that land, which kept that airport open, right?
Yeah, right.
But once that's in place, I'm using your model here that the awareness of this is what's happened. We need to communicate that really clearly. People were really justifiably upset and understand, how am I going to pay my mortgage if I lost my job and things like that, right?
Yes.
They needed to be understood. There was that really big place for empathy. But once they had a plan in place, a little plan, let's get Qantas on the ground, let's get them landing here, then Virgin Blue followed suit.
Yeah.
So they were the first regional airport that actually pulled out of that crisis. And people said, how did you do it? Oh, and then it was, we had a vision. No, you just freaking said thank you to Qantas.
Yeah.
and primed the pump a little bit. But the team then got this idea that it was okay to be resilient. They came up with ideas of how they could work the shifts. So nobody got laid off, but they just had different shifts. They just didn't work the full time.
Yeah, nice.
You got it?
Nice.
So, and that's sort of, they really had to pivot. They really had to pivot what they were doing. But that they couldn't have, your point, Kylie, is you can't do that on your own as a leader. You know, people change organizations. So it was the people that actually, once they thought, we're doing this together, they leaned into that change.
Yeah. You know, if you think about Kodak, you think about Blockbuster, you know, just their two prime examples. It wasn't the company that didn't change. It was the people that didn't change. So look, I'm conscious of time. I know we like to keep these short. For anyone that's listening, I'm not saying that leading change is easy. It's not. Okay. Leading change in uncertainty adds more complexity. Okay. But I want everyone that's listening to understand that there is a lot of uncertainty at the moment. Okay. In our world. Even here in Australia, there is a lot of uncertainty, labour shortages, economic instability. There is also, you know, when I think about everything that we've been through, COVID, people have still got some of that impact that is still with them. So leaders need to start to think about, and I even touched on it in one of the workshops that I ran a couple of weeks ago around what is one of the challenges that leaders will face in 2024, and it is leading through uncertainty. Okay, so what's the plan? What's your plan for that? Start to plan now. Change is a beast in itself. You can go and do further studies on that. Change managers out there do this amazing work. Okay, get support from your HR partners, get support from a change manager, reach out to people within your business that might have experience, get your change champions, reach out to people like Andrew or myself that can help lead through that change as well. But don't do it alone, okay, and start to prepare for it. Any final words that you want to add to that, Andrew?
Yeah, I would say I like the two models that you put up: understand, educate, reassure. Right. And if you're watching this on replay or you're watching it right now, what I'd ask you to do is just take those three and ask. There's a whole theory that sits behind it, but you've got enough. Just prime the pump. Go. What does that mean? Those three things mean to you. The ADCAR model, same. How would I start using with the little bit I know right now? So figure out what you can do on your own. But Kylie's also saying too, if you want to turbocharge that, you might involve your team, or you might say involve coaches. You might say, I need external help on this. But whatever you do, leading in certainty doesn't work if you pretend it's not happening.
And I don't know, I also question whether or not leaders should be leading the change. They should be the sponsor, but they shouldn't be the people on the ground doing the change. Okay, that's not your expertise. That's not your role to do that either. So it's important to make sure you set the vision, you set the reasons, you set the scene, you be there to support it and make sure you reinforce it to the business, but you shouldn't be actually doing the doing.
Well, and you can't anyway.
Well, how do you fit it all in?
You can't drive the bus and be a passenger.
No, that's right. But people won't be on the bus unless you lead the change the right way.
That's it. That's exactly how it works. Yeah. I love the ADCAR model. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a model. I mean,
design, knowledge, ability, reinforcement.
Yeah, it's a ProC model, so it's been researched, it's solid, it's based on evidence, it's based on real case studies, and I just think it's probably one of the most easiest model that businesses can use, that people can apply, and especially leaders of all levels, because, and even with change, I'm just going to have one more thing with change. we often forget that it's the leaders that are the biggest reinforcers of the change. So we've got to provide them with the tools and the resources for them to be able to lead that change. Okay, they don't know how to do it. They've never done it before. It's a competency of a leader. So giving them the tools and models they need really makes a big difference to them as well.
And that's most people I work with. They're not really sure, how do I lead through certain times, let alone uncertain times.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I say a lot is that people know what to do. Leaders know what to do. They know they've got to lead this change, okay? They know why they've got to do it. There could be a myriad of reasons. They know when they've got to do it. They know who they've got to do it with. They know where they've got to do it, but they don't know the how. And that's why I love the use of models, because the models help them with the how.
Yeah, it provides that structure. I love your books and models.
Yeah, I know, I do. I think everything great has structure. So I thoroughly enjoy having a chat with you again, Andrew. I think what I would like, just before we wrap it up, is one leadership insight you got from the Camino Trail. One leadership insight you got that you could share with the audience.
Without a doubt, the easiest one: stop and rest.
Stop and rest. Yeah, I love it.
It just blew me away, the amount of times, that we got more done by stopping and resting. Pull up, stop, have a rest, just take a break, because you can't walk. We were walking 12-hour days, right? And it's all uphill, it's hot, it's uncertain terrain. The only way you could regroup as a team and come back is when you stopped and everyone caught up, and we stopped and had a bit of a chat and we bonded as a team. And think, stop and rest. And I've been sort of talking to my clients about that, who just, it's always on. Go. Next. There's no stop. There's no rest. There's no celebrate. There's no, hey, what are we learning? No connection. Camino for me was about people connections. It was, people lead change. People walk the Camino. The Camino doesn't walk itself.
Yeah. And
appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, let me share then an exact way in which I play that out in my life. I love what I do. Oh, yes, there we are. Love it. I love what I do, and I work long hours because I love it. However, every quarter, RG, one of my team, will pop in a day off for me, and I normally take my children away with me, and we went away to Curramundi, which is up at Caloundra Beaches, Andrew. Last Friday, Saturday and Sunday, 3 days of sun, surf and sand. Loved it, recharged, and ready to rock and roll.
I went to Edinburgh.
Oh, did you?
Got on a train. I went to Edinburgh, all devices off, all emails off, everything off, went there. We ate too much, drank too much, walked too much, froze too much. It was fantastic. It was really
love
good.
It. Yeah, rest and recharge. Great insight. Yeah. Thank you, Andrew. As always, love chatting with you.
Likewise.